Recording. Hello, everybody. My name is Derry Brennan, and I'm here to give you my demonstration for my fourth year project, the Ada Runtime Error Generator. The goal behind this project was to use an already existing test input generation software called Mika, developed by Chris Mudek, to find the presence of runtime errors in Ada code. The goal was to try and accomplish this with as many different runtime errors as possible. We did manage to implement the division by zero and array index out of bounds. I will demonstrate those for you now. This is Mika. The text may be a little small, but my resolution on my monitor is quite high, so that's the reason for that. I do apologize. I have made a little exception test file here. In Mika, you parse your file first. This has already been pre-parsed, so Mika says it's already up to date. And then you can run tests on each individual sub-program. In here, there's 5 different sub-programs to demonstrate what we did. So on test, the first test here is a simple division by zero. You can see we take in x and y integers, and we divide x by y. So there's different coverage strategies. There's branch decision and modified choice decision coverage. And they were already present before this project. We added the exception and query coverage strategies during the course of this. So if we were to run our generate tests on test 1, it will come back and say, yes, if y is equal with 0, there would be an exception. As you can see, x by y. So moving on to test 2, we can generate tests for that. Here we are taking in just x. We have a number is equal to 100, number 2 is equal to 7, and we're saying if number 3 is equal to number 2 minus x. So generate our tests here, and it's if x is equal to 7, that would be 7 minus 7 is equal to number 3, and then we're dividing number 1 by number 3, and in this case, if x was 7, it would be 0. Then moving on to the array index. Here we have just a simple array index out of bounds. We have an array B. Its index ranges from 1 to 42, and we are assigning a value to index A, which we're taking in. So generate our tests for this, and it's set to exception. If A is a big number, that would be out of range of our index of the array. There is another example here. We're taking in an integer, and we're putting out an integer. Our array again goes from 1 to 42. And we're saying if A is greater than 1 or A is less than 42 or equal to, then we will assign the value. Otherwise, then we're assigning true to be at A. The use here of OR makes this possible to be array index out of bounds. But we will generate our test just to double check that. It's array access 2. And so yes, again, if A is a large number, or again, A could be a negative number, and it would be out of range as well. So that's that one. I went back and I put the same procedure here. I just changed the OR to an AND to show the lack of presence of runtime error in this one. So generate a test for this, and as you can see, no test input got given back, because with the correct usage of AND instead of OR there, it wouldn't be possible. It was at this stage when we're doing the exception checking for array index out of bounds that we realized that this approach that we're using, applying the checks within the parser, wasn't going to be feasible moving forward. In the parser, like an array is viewed as an indexed component. When you say like B parentheses whatever index you want to reference, that's viewed as an index component, and that is the same as, say, a procedure call or typecasting of like an integer to a float. all of these, something followed by a parentheses index or parentheses item is an index component. So the checks that we're doing on the array index out of bounds was to see was what was being passed in within the range of the item preceding the parentheses. And that works well for the when it is an array. But if it's not an array, obviously you can't say like array access 1 here doesn't have a range. So the checks that we're performing didn't work. So we decided that we would move on to supplement the project with something else. And that was to implement a dynamic code querying from within a text editor, or IDE. The one that we chose was Visual Studio Code. And I will demonstrate to you now what we accomplished there. So I did up a Visual Studio Code extension. When this is available up on GitHub, it hasn't been published to their store yet, but it's available to download on GitHub, and you can run it the same from there. So once you have the code open, it's F5 within Visual Studio Code to run your developer application. And that opens up another instance of Visual Studio Code as a development window. You open up the code that you want to query or work on here. I already have the one, my test demo here pre-populated. So there's 2 commands within this extension. As you can see, I've already got some comments in here pre-populated, but if you're working away on this code and you wanted to insert a comment yourself, you go to the line that you wish to insert the comment on and press F1. My computer is not responding at present. Well, there we go. Press F1 and it's Mika Ada annotations will... Mika Ada annotations will insert the comment at the line that you had selected. Sorry, my computer had a little bit of lag there and everything jumped around. You can then take out this boilerplate comment and insert your Boolean condition that you want to check for. So that's just to get people familiar with how the comment looks like. Once you get familiar with it, it would be nearly as quickly just to type in the comment yourself, but it's to get the syntax of the comment right for people initially. So here we have a comment. It's the ## Mika, which is the special comment that will trigger the background magic. And then there's a Boolean condition here. So Z is equal with 10,000 and record test of A is equal to 250. So just to note here that these Boolean conditions, as you can see here, they work with the record. A record is basically a struct in Ada. We also have an enumeration and an array as well that we're going to use within our Boolean conditions. So once we get this to be a proper comment, you can press F1 again to open up the command palette here, and then it's Mika generate test inputs, and it will go off and call Mika and will display the test inputs if this condition is possible. And it is possible. It's saying if X is this number and Y is 20. And as we can see here, since Z is 500, if X is greater than Z, so X is greater than Z, Z is then equal with itself multiplied by Y. So it's 500 by 20, which is 10,000. And then record test later on in this if statement gets to be assigned 250. We can see here if we actually take this comment out and insert it just above where record test happens, the assignment of record test, I mean, we can run it again. And you can see now there are no test inputs that would make this condition to be true at this line. Whereas after we bring it down to below the assignment of record test, it is possible. So there's a few other things we can, as we saw, if Y was equal with 20, Z could be 10,000, but what if we say, hey, we don't want Y to be 20 and we want Z to be 10,000 still? We can give that a go, and it says, no, there's no constructed test inputs found that would make that condition true. So down to another one, Z is equal to 10,000, and you can use XOR or within these Boolean queries or conditions as well. So I'm saying Z is equal to 10,000 XOR Y is greater than 1,000. So is there possible test inputs to make this one true? And there is, because of XOR, of course, the Y can't be greater than 1,000 and this to be true, and that's true. Y is less than 1,000, and if Y was 20, it would be equal to 10,000. Z would be equal to 10,000 here. Just one more on this particular one. Color is equal to green XOR record test A is less than 50. We have made record test A less than 50 above, but we have made color blue. So this one should be possible. It will be possible. It won't be possible. God, I shouldn't have predicted. So this one is false, and this one, record test at A is less than 50. Okay, so this one is false as well. I got a little bit confused. The mental gymnastics I had to go through to make these conditions even confused me, and that's where this really comes into play. Just to be able to ask a condition and to be either told no, it's not possible, or yes, it is possible, and here's the values that would make it possible, and you can go off and then just reconfirm it for yourself. But so record test A is 250, so it is not less than 50, and color can't be green because we just assigned it to be blue, so they're both false. So moving on, another one, I've inserted a kind of a longer statement here. So I'm saying, can Z be greater than my array at index 5, and can my array at index 5 mod my array at index 3 be equal to 0? So that you can string your Boolean conditions and get as complex as you like with them. Generate test inputs, and it is possible with x is equal to 233, y equal with the big number. So as you can see, I have many more, but I think you can see where this is going. I don't want to keep you here too long. Just to reiterate, this is about, can this condition be true at the specified line of code at which you're calling it? This is a very useful tool to have. My project as a whole this year, I found it very difficult, but very enjoyable and worthwhile. Like just this alone is very, very unique. I haven't seen it around anywhere else. Myself and Chris were having a look at what you'd even call it, decided on dynamic code querying. But for future studies or endeavors, the way we had implemented or set out to implement the runtime error checking in the parser, that proved to be not the correct approach. But if we were to work on it further, maybe to take those checks and move them into the symbolic execution, where like all the typing information is available, so you're not having the ambiguity of whether an index component is an array or like a function call or something like that. You can run the checks just on the arrays. So that would be the way that I would progress the overall original goal of the project. But I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed my demonstration. I'm sorry if I went on a little long there, but thank you, and any questions?